well, let's get into it, guys. I mean, let's talk about this season, because coming into the season, we picked Arsenal to 4th. It was all looking rosy. Antonio Conte, a happy Antonio Conte as manager. We had a good start to the season in terms of results.
Great start.
What went wrong?
It was the inevitable, really, in terms of he was overachieving with that set of players, and the lack of depth in our squad ultimately got exposed, because the big turnarounds at these points of the season was, even though we lost with him that day at Leicester, Bentancur getting that injury. Now, Bentancur is the only person in that central midfield that can turn and go or do something with the ball, slot something through. Like Højbjerg's not that guy, Skip's not that guy. Basuma, of course, as well, being injured. You have to look at it. We've had some really bad injuries this season. You look at Kulu's not been himself. He had a big injury at the start of the season. Trying to settle Richarlison at the start of the season, there's been so many factors this year. But ultimately, when you've got Davies and Dyer, and unfortunately Lloris have to throw into that mixer as well, Longley, Sessegnon, like, it's just not good enough really at this level. And that's what happened, guys.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, man. I think that the two key players for us last year, as you touched on there, Son and Kulusevski, like, big fall off in form for both of them. Carried us a lot last year. As I said, got Son picking up a golden boot. Yeah. You watch him at times this year, he can't trap anything. He's running, he's falling over, he looks weak in a challenge. Completely different player. You've got Kulusevski, who's only got 2 league goals. It's not enough.
The first game of the season.
Like, it's not enough, mate. And a big problem's been the lad from Brazil. Yeah. Record signing, 1 league goal. And you can make excuses for him about being played out of position and not getting a good run and injury, but it's just not been good enough. And he really needs to hit the ground running next year. He needs to hit the ground running big time next year when we start off.
I was saying about Richarlison, right, like, it's not been anywhere near good enough for Richarlison, but I still want to give him that 1 more year. He deserves that 1 more year.
Listen, I always, even though this has been a lot worse of a performance, but everyone forgets how bad Didier Drogba was in his first season at Chelsea. Now, Richarlison, not to say he's going to become Didier Drogba, but you know, he needs a chance, he needs some time, and you know, obviously there's a player there, and not just that there's a player there, there's someone that's committed to the cause, and I think this is why Everton fans liked him so much, etc. He does become committed to the club, and you know, there is an element of that people do love. But as well, you know, you got to think as well, not to make any excuses, this was being a World Cup year. And we all asked, how would it affect the football this season with it being a World Cup year? Now, obviously, you've had Chelsea in disarray. Liverpool, it took them a while to get back into the swing of things. You know, Man United arguably have been hit and miss, even though they got into top 4. I think with Spurs, you've got to think Lloris, Romero, Perisic all played every minute of the World Cup until the last games, because they had the same amount of games because they had the 3rd place playoff and the final. You know, a lot of our boys, Harry, he went all the way. So there was that as well as the injuries. And then, of course, within the club, you had Conte and the loss of, you know, our fitness coach. We had the personal tragedies that was happening in Conte's life as well. And it was just such a shame to see it all eventually implode. And it's a shame, because I just think, you know, if Conte was there till the end of the season, I don't think we finish 8th.
Absolutely. You got to look at it. We took gambles in the summer as well. Gambles in the defensive areas for me. So Jed Spence didn't get a look. Right wing back was one of the positions that we wanted to address. Hasn't played any football. Gone out on loan. Lenglet, we're after a left-sided centre half. Another loan deal from Barcelona. Ticks a few boxes, but is he any good? No. Left wing back Perisic. Probably got him 2 or 3 years too late. But if you look at the whole season, for me, he ain't really done enough. And he seems to have fallen off, especially the second half of the season. That backline is as worse than anyone in the Premier League for me.
Was it 60? How many goals we conceded this year?
So
60?
bad.
5 less than Leicester, who went down.
It's so ridiculous. Bad, and that is the reality.
How is a team trying with aspirations of getting into the Champions League and winning a trophy, first of all conceding that many goals, and just signing just these snickle fritz players, you know what I mean? Like, we're going for Gvardiol and Bastoni, we end up with Longley.
Yeah, we was linked with De Vrij, weren't we? A lot to be the left-hand side of the three at the back. We end up, as I said, with Lenglet on the 3. Skriniar was linked to
always linked
all summer. Like, and what they've done is they spent a lot of money on Basuma and Richarlison, and they took a gamble on the defence in the hope that it worked. It failed miserably for me. That backline, as I said, it's just been has just been a disaster, and it's just been error after error after error.
We've let in 63 goals this
Not good
season,
enough.
63.
and the closest is to us is Bournemouth, who've done 71. They're 15th. Nottingham Forest, Everton conceded less goals than us. Leicester,
Eric Dyer, for example, you can't be giving Eric Dyer 3-year deals. Now I know the chats.
I don't think there is gonna give him a
the
deal
talk has
anymore.
slowed down on that one, and you hear the argument. Yeah, but I'd rather keep Eric Dyer around as a backup. No. Like the ship sailed. It's gone. Like he needs to go. Tottenham need to progress. Tottenham need to get better players in than him. For me, would you agree with that?
but this is the problem in general with Spurs, isn't it? Really, if you look at the team that started the Champions League final, Dyer and Davies were Pochettino subs.
good, mate.
Now we've got Pochettino subs as our main guys. That's why the decline has been what it has. You can't go from having Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen to a very, very mediocre Ben Davies and
We
Dyer.
seem to reward mediocrity.
Yeah,
in this club.
that's what we do.
We seem to reward it.
And like Romero for me has, especially without Conte, switched off. Believes he's bigger than the club. He's won a World Cup. He probably wants to be at Real Madrid or Barcelona in his mind. Again, we've got a problem with the club and this comes down to the recruitment of Conte and Jose, both who think in their mind, I'm better than Tottenham because I win things and they don't. So when you create that atmosphere there, you ain't going to create a mentality amongst the players of like, we care about this club. That's what Poch did. Poch never thought he was bigger than our club. He was like, we're building something together. Tottenham's a massive club. This is a huge job for me. And everyone there did. It's interesting. I saw Kyle Walker talking about how he left a really good Spurs team to go Man City.
Which he did, yeah.
But you left. So it's like, you're also part of the problem, mate. Don't like be trying to go, oh, it was good. I left them in a good state. If we still had Kyle Walker, we might have kicked on again and got closer to winning and kept building on. The problem with Spurs is we just do not operate like a big club.
No.
The recruitment's let the chairman down though this year now, and he has to be held responsible for that because it's his football club. But Basuma hasn't worked out for us this year. Now we're hopeful again that we kick on next year, but he hasn't worked out. Richarlison hasn't worked out. Not enough players that have contributed this year to that 11 and kicked us on. And in that, we've had players that have fallen out of form and a defence that's just a shambles. Put it all together, it gets you 8th.
And 63 goals conceded.
And this is where you have to look at it, though, because there's been a lot of debates throughout the season. We have it on our podcast. Sure, you've had it on this show many a times. Is it the manager? Is it the players? Is it the manager? Is it the players? It's the players for me the majority of the time. But this little reign of Ryan Mason, and look, it's not anything personal against or a little attack on Ryan Mason, but this little fall off here, we touched on it before we come on here. We're a bad decision away at Southampton and a result of getting 3rd. We're in 8th.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying with the same group of players who have not been playing well, but it's just some elite managers, the top draw managers, they just get that little bit more. They just get a little bit more out of you. Don't know what it is, whether it's on a training ground, whether it's certain things they say and put in people's ears.
The line, these
Definitely.
managers,
And you've got to have a top manager, and this appointment is going to be a big one for Spurs.
I mean, if we don't get this appointment right, which we'll get into a bit later, I mean, we could go even further back, 2-3 years back, even further, especially if we lose Harry Kane next summer. And I dread to think where we'll be without Harry Kane's goals this year. Like 30 goals in a season this year, where would we be without him?
Well, the only thing is you've got that absolute monster that is Haaland playing for a monster team that is City. Otherwise, you look at Harry Kane, the man's ridiculous. Again, is he only second person or someone to score 230-plus goals?
I think he's the only
person,
only
yeah.
one.
30 league goals in this Tottenham team.
Yeah, I know.
30 league goals in this
Imagine
side.
if he was in that City team, he'd be getting over 40 goals.
He'd be on 60s.
People keep saying about, like, this is what I mean. If we were actually going to Harry Kane now, yeah? So I would want, with Harry Kane, for me, he's getting better.
He is getting better.
Yeah, that's
his goals will tell you that. He's got 30 goals in this Tottenham side.
Even what he did against Leeds, that thing in the centre of the park where he put it over someone and it
Different
led to the goal.
Beautiful.
Different level.
He's got stronger, he's got more skillful. I just think he's
For me, I'm
unbelievable.
very biased towards him, but I think you'd have to make a strong argument that he's Spurs' greatest ever player. Like, if he stays at Tottenham for another season and leaves on a free transfer, he contributes to any team in the world in a big way. Like, and I'm on about even with his age. He's so great. He can play. He can drop off. He can play as the marksman.
Well,
it contributes so much. And you know, even and by the way, the City one, however much I don't want to talk about it, he gets a lot of games at Man City. He goes there on a free transfer. He gets a lot of football.
Week in, week out,
He gets a
Harry Kane.
lot of
Any
football
team
there.
in world
He
football,
gets
he
a lot of
starts week
football,
in,
mate.
week
There.
out.
So don't be surprised if that one, like, resurfaces next summer.
And I don't like this Kane-Haaland debate because I think Kane is a much better player.
Football player, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if Erling Haaland is in this Spurs team this year, how many goals is he getting?
4.
Literally, you know what I
If you're
mean?
lucky.
Didn't look like a goodbye for me from Harry. That's a positive when he was at Leeds at the week, and it didn't look like it was an emotional goodbye. I think that I wouldn't even be surprised if it's set in stone. He's staying for another year.
I think for him, he stays another year, and he's got all the power in his hands.
Absolutely.
And I think he wants to do that after the way that he was dealt with the Man City deal. That's, you know.
What would your reaction be to him if he stays that one more year, then goes and joins Poch at Chelsea?
That's a problem. The Poch thing's a problem for me. I'll put up a poll on our social media today about where you have a conversation. You can use words like Judas or legend or whatever it is, but and there's been other players. You look at Pat Jennings, he's gone to Arsenal, Glenn Hoddle, gone to things, Sol Campbell, whatever it might be. But in my time, so I weren't around when Glenn Hoddle played, and I weren't around when Pat Jennings played. But I've been around when Pochettino done unbelievable things for our club. Didn't win a trophy, but I become fully invested to the man and what he was about, yeah? You don't go and sit in a Chelsea dugout after that, mate. And you don't start putting messages on when you're leaving the club about and all that. And, you know, and the rapport and how much he loves the fans. And I understand that, obviously, Tottenham had an option, maybe didn't take him back. But his departure at the club was justified for me. Tottenham weren't in a good place. We was not in good form, was we?
No.
And he probably deserved to be sacked. For him to go and sit in that...
I disagree that he deserved to be sacked. Because
I thought we were in a bad bit of
He
form.
earned the right to turn it around. He earned the right to have that rebuild.
Potentially, but we was in a really bad place, weren't we?
I mean, we got to the Champions League final. We had a hard start to the season. We sacked him at the earliest opportunity that we could.
But there'd been a few things that he had said as well. So what I'm saying is the relationship started to break down.
I get that.
And something needed to give. And in football, it's the managers that always leave.
But again, this just feels like you've got Stockholm syndrome with Daniel Levy, which is, because it is every fan is like falling in love with the captor. The problem isn't Pochettino. The problem is the man.
Yeah.
Above.
No, but I'm not talking about
No, but what I'm saying is with Poch, listen, as you said, the reason I got rid of Poch at the quickest convenience, what happened that season? What was we doing? The Amazon documentary. Who is more rock and roll than Pochettino? Jose Mourinho. I'm telling you now, I think
we need to be consistent though, because I would like to go back to that time and have a conversation with probably yourself and probably all the other Spurs fans that are saying he went too early, and then people probably be saying,
no, I said he had credit at the time. Okay. I said he had credit because of what he'd done.
That now, though,
no, but what the thing is, regardless of whether he deserved to be sacked or not, he got sacked by us. Yeah, he has since then been on TV crying, wearing a Spurs top, reminiscing about the whole
but that's why
Champions
I can't
League.
Forgive.
No, because
to Chelsea, mate.
But then if you don't ring someone up,
you
it's
sit
like
down with a Chelsea fan. You go to them. Who's your biggest rival? They will say Tottenham. It's not for us. Our biggest rival's Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not
Chelsea.
Arsenal. So I don't care.
Second's Chelsea. Yeah, but he's gone to a main rival.
Because we didn't.
Sit in that thing.
We've not called him.
You know, when you come out to the ground and you go Chelsea, Chelsea,
Right,
Chelsea, and you're singing that, you're buying in all of that. Yeah, that's a problem, match.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You got a girlfriend, yeah? You got a girlfriend that you split up with, yeah? She's keen to get back with you. You don't ring her, and then your enemy says, "Well, I'll take you back." Well, no, I'm waiting for them to call me. They're not going to call you.
Regardless of all of that,
we didn't call him.
Regardless of all,
we
of
didn't
that.
call
Yeah,
him.
but regardless of all of that,
did we call him?
What?
We didn't call him.
Yeah, but I'm not being funny. Like I said,
We've had no.
Take it back to the beginning of the conversation we said about Poch. There was probably reasons to justify his departure.
Yeah, but we've not called him back. Yeah, so why should he sit here and wait for Spurs? Why should he wait for Spurs? Why should he wait for a team that sacked him after getting to the Champions League final? Why should he wait for a team that clearly said to him, "Look, I'm giving you no money. I'm not." That's why Poch lost the dressing room. Having spoken to players,
I understand why he would have gone to Chelsea, match.
Yeah,
why he's gone to Chelsea. I understand.
But I can't hate
it's a
that.
big club and all that. But as soon as you've done it, there becomes the hatred automatically kicks in for me.
The fact of the matter is, he's the enemy now.
You can't.
That's the facts of the matter.
You're telling me if he come round, you give him a little round of applause for what he's done at Tottenham.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate. You won't be seeing me doing that. I don't know if you'll be doing that.
I can't.
Give him a Pochettino clap at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in a Chelsea top.
I can't. This all comes
regardless whether he should be there or not, mate.
Right.
There's certain things that kick in.
Would you have had Poch back?
Who?
Would you have had Poch back?
Definitely.
Would you have had Poch back?
100%.
One man didn't want him back. And that same man is the man who's making all the decisions.
That's irrelevant for me.
No, but what I'm saying is, so now I'm not going to dislike someone, again, because of someone else's poor business decisions. Pochettino lost the dressing room. Yeah, he lost that dressing room for a couple of reasons. One, the Lucas Moura thing in the Champions League final.
Yeah,
that's been pretty much confirmed for me by others, right, who were in that mixer. And everyone looked around him and was like, have you not played the man that got us through to the final? I think the dressing room lost. When Dembele went, when Musa went, it was a huge, huge thing at the club. And then also the other thing was, because he was becoming so frustrated with the lack of funding, the lack of support, that's why he came back with the mad stuff like, if I win the Champions League with this team, I should leave, because it's the most I can do. That's why he sat with Gary Lineker and said, and Gary's like, well, you got a lovely new house, like a new stadium. He goes, well, it's not having a new house, but if you got no furniture, what's the point?
That, but there's just certain moves you make, Madge, that are just not acceptable.
Arsenal's the only one for me. Arsenal's the only one.
Thing. I'll tell you what,
I don't care about
when
Chelsea.
We go and watch Tottenham,
close to Arsenal
when we go and watch Tottenham Chelsea next year, because I'm sure I'll be with you.
No, I won't, because I won't renew my season ticket.
Fair enough then, yeah.
You're not renewing?
Until I know who the manager is, I will not renew that season ticket.
Be interested. 3 days or something, for 3-4 days.
I've got the executive one.
Okay.
It'd be
how long does that?
interested to see how many Spurs fans clap that man.
I think a lot.
I won't be one of them.
I don't think he's going to get a good reception. I don't think he's. I'm not going to boo him. I can't bring myself to boo him, but I'm not going to clap him either.
Absolutely.
He's just going to be nothing for me.
He's gone. That love affair for me.
But we've had Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte.
Yeah, but that's not affecting me. Yeah, that's affecting a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, but we seem to have this seamlessness back and forth with each other now.
But them same Chelsea fans will have the same dislike for Conte and Mourinho, just like I'm having for Pochettino. But they're on the other side of it.
I don't know. I just think Daniel Levy's decision of not bringing him back or not even having a conversation with him, for me, it's just madness.
Well, it would all make sense if you get a big appointment, and that is what needs to happen next. And Nagelsmann would be a big appointment.
We ain't got a big. Where's the big appointment?
No, there isn't one at the moment. There has
to
be one, but there is one still on the table.
Nagelsmann, that's it.
One that I still think is a big possibility, and that is Nagelsmann.
A 34-year-old with no Premier League experience.
But you can make that argument, yeah. But he's just sat in the dugout for Bayern Munich
And got sacked.
Yeah, well, you could say that, but you could say that very harshly.
Tuchel came in and did worse than Nagelsmann. He's won the league, luckily, at the end of the season.
But he's won the league.
I know he's won the league, but
you've got to look at the Leipzig job.
Anyway.
You've got to look at the Leipzig job that he done as well before that.
In the Bundesliga.
He did great for Hoffenheim as well.
Bundesliga.
Yeah, Bundesliga.
Not the same beast.
Okay, so but would you take Arne Slot, who's playing in the Eredivisie?
I wouldn't. I didn't want Arne Slot. I didn't want any of them. I wanted Pochettino. I wanted the person that knows the Premier League. Like
any manager that Tottenham appoints is going to come with risk. Anyone.
But it all comes
about what league they play in. Because the first thing is they need a few good players. Until you get them as well, we might as well have us three in charge.
I thought we'd do a good job.
I think we would.
We'll get on to who we want as manager in a sec, but in terms of where it went wrong, obviously we sacked Conte, which was the wrong decision at the time. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, we hired Stellini. What was the sense in sacking Conte and hiring Stellini?
It sounded
what was
fantastic.
The sense in that?
The name sounds
Just
great.
the name. So we could go Stellini. That's what we did.
It was good.
To keep some kind of consistency, maybe for the players, is perhaps one thing he thought. But the thing you do when you sack a manager is you go and get a bounce back. Didn't you? That's the whole thing. A new manager bounce. Go get Harry Redknapp for 8 games. All of us, we would have been like, Harry's back.
I would have been in that camp.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would have lifted the place.
Would have lifted the place massively.
We spoke about it.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not Stellini, but he started off well, didn't he? Then we beat like City, like when he first came in. Like, so it was just like, it was starting off well, but
then we lost to Sheffield United and Milan.
Yeah, it just wasn't good.
Stellini was a problem. Obviously flanked by Ryan Mason. What can we get on to Mason? Can I talk about him?
Yeah.
What I say about Ryan Mason is, though, and I have to give him a little bit of credit for, and this is where you have to go back to Conte, and you said this from the get-go about Conte when we was with his formation and his stubbornness. Me and many other Spurs fans, one of the main gripes we had with Antonio Conte was his stubbornness. Doesn't change formation, keeps playing the same players every week, don't look to have a go, why don't he go forward at the back, change things up when it's not working. Ryan Mason's done that, not to the same levels because he's reverted back to type. Really, he's gone through it back with a wing back, but he has had a little go. Went forward at the back at times and different use. It's been clear as day why Antonio Conte didn't change any of it.
100%.
Because you cannot. It is literally with the players that we've got, you have to bolt up in every way.
That's
possible.
why. Do you remember always on the podcast what my argument was? I'm not going to argue with a man that's won the Premier League.
But it takes something. It takes something
to show you.
You saw the first time we changed it. Newcastle. 4-0 down, 5-0 down.
But that's why sometimes as football fans we have to just like hold on for the roller coaster and go, I'm going to trust in this man's decisions because as I said, this is the same man that got us Champions League football last year with Ben Davies and Eric Dyer. So he must know what he's doing, and he must have been sitting at home in Italy just laughing.
He had a go though, Mason. He tried. He's obviously, for me, he's well out of his depth. Like, he's in a very, very fortunate position to be managing Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in front of 60,000 fans. But Antonio Conte, mate, he didn't commit, did he? So regardless whether he
that was a big problem.
He didn't commit to us. In a relationship, it's got to be.
Yeah, his issue was that. But as we know, with lots of things, and you know, Jose coming out recently speaking a lot more with a distaste. It's like there's so many problems behind the scene that why is he going to commit his? Why do you expect someone to commit their future in a working environment like that? Someone of that ilk, because Conte, as soon as next year, you know, someone gets sacked from a big job or whatever, you know, we don't know where Ancelotti's going with Real Madrid. Conte can go walk into Real Madrid, mate.
Of course he can.
It's the same, and since leaving us, Jose has won the conference in the final of the Europa. Nuno has won something.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
When you see
we're
that,
joke.
I know. The Nuno one killed me.
I just saw that post.
Saudi Arabian League at the end of the day, but still, it beat Cristiano Ronaldo.
He's still lifting something aloft. Like, we still hold on to the Audi Cup. We're happy to still talk about that.
I still got images of Sissoko.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just...
If you don't laugh, you will cry, yeah. Genuinely. That's like...
We've got to a point now where we have become the joke that the media portrayed us to be, because we weren't a joke. We were serious. And we were disrupting that big four to create the top six. The top six it was always called the big four. Yeah. It was Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea and Liverpool. Obviously, Man City cannot be denied.
So much work to be done, man. Where do you start?
It's crazy amount of work.
Like, where do you start? Because you look at the players coming back. If you go into the wing backs, for me, right, I'm not a fan of Ryan Sessegnon at all. I think he's not good enough.
He's made of glass,
right?
isn't he?
So you've got Reguilon coming back. If you're looking at two wing backs to play on the left, if you're just starting that position, you've got a Dougie being your first choice.
Teach me how a Dougie.
Teach me how a Dougie, yeah. You could probably make an argument for Reguilon getting the second spot there over Sessegnon. So there's a decision to be made there.
But again, it brings me back to the point I was telling you before about the English quota. We need English players to come into the squad.
Yeah. You got the right wing back situation, Spence. I'd like to see him pushing next year with Porro as like the main two there. Centre halves need to be addressed. Midfield, like, look, let's touch on him. Right, Oliver Skipp. Like, for me, he's had a lot of football at the tail end of this season due to Bentancur's injury. Nowhere near good enough for me.
Not for the starting.
Called this for a long, long time. It gets met with a lot of criticism because he's a Spurs boy. And he's come for our academy, so naturally, as Spurs fans, you want to see him do well. Gets a bit more credit in the bank because of that. But if you're talking about from just a simple footballing point of view, it's not good enough. His capabilities, for me, there's not enough of them.
Why is he part of this bloody leadership group, Ollie Skipp?
That's ridiculous.
How ridiculous is that?
It's not an attack person on him, but he's got to be. Yeah, he's got. We got to aim a little bit higher.
The reason why he's part of that leadership group is because there's no leaders at Spurs. If there was a leader at Spurs, they'd be like, "Jog on, mate."
Should there be a leadership group? Should there be such a thing called a leadership?
No, there should just be one captain that actually sorts it out. Because Lloris isn't a captain. Never has been. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Bissouma's got to have a big one next year.
Harry Kane is a captain by the way he plays, but he's not vocal enough to be a captain. You need to find a captain. Do you know what I mean? Who's like the guy, you know, like Lewis Dunk at Brighton, who's a leader by vocals. And
so I look at Bissouma, and I might be speaking out of turn here, but like I see him at Leeds, and he's everything that I look at in a footballer and think, no, that's a problem. Like, it is the hottest day of the year on Sunday, I think it was. He's got the Under Armour on. It's all folded up. Honestly, I know this is just stupid things in football, but it don't fill you with any confidence. There's the old saying in football, roll your sleeves up. He rolls them over his hands. It just sends off all the wrong messages. Are you up for the task here? Because we need players next year who need to be up for the task.
I think Bissouma's going to have a big break.
Hopefully he does.
The problem, really believe in him.
If we want to increase our English quota, then why don't we dip into AC Milan and go and buy Tomori? Do you know what I mean?
Like, glad that you'd look at.
You know, they're the kind of players that we should be going trying to buy.
I mean, I know he's Spanish, but he'll be an English quota player.
Yeah, this is the kind of things that we need to be doing and doing. The problem that we have, if we've fallen off so badly, that you know we have the least of the pickings out of everyone.
That's what I'm saying. Can we attract these players anymore?
Tottenham are a big football club.
I know they're
Tottenham are still a big football club.
No,
how many are before us in the pecking order?
There's a lot. There's Man United, there's Arsenal, there's Man City, there's Newcastle ahead of us now, there's Man City. If you want to play in Europe, They could be Aston Villa
Chelsea
ahead of you now.
still ahead of us.
Chelsea ahead of us, absolutely. So it's like we have to wait and see what they don't want, and that's who we'll get. And that's why do not be surprised if, like you said, the Regions of this world.
Oh, you got Ndembele coming back, Lascelles. So for me, as I said to you before we come on, Madge, if personal talent, Oliver Skip or Højbjerg, whatever, or Oliver Skip, if that's your midfield, then you probably, unfortunately, because these are things as a Spurs fans, with his first in the club at Ndembele, we look at it going, he could probably get a game. You start thinking that way. You start thinking, do you reckon Ndembele could get
this is why the manager that comes in, this is why I wanted Pochettino, is because he's already worked under that stewardship of Daniel Levy of, hey mate, you're not getting much. You have to deal with what's here. Because don't forget, when Poch came in, Danny Rose was rubbish.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets how...
And Walker, to be fair.
Yeah, Walker weren't no good. The pair of them were no good, right? I remember tweeting, and I apologised to Danny Rose's face. I tweeted he was the worst left back we've ever had at our football club. I said he was worse than YP Lee. I did. Right? And I said to Rose at Wembley, I said, bruv, I tweeted that you were the worst Spurs left back ever. And he laughed. And I went, bruv, you're so sick. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
He was class in that game, by the way.
Yeah, mate, he still got it. Yeah. I'd have him back.
100%.
Like, but what I'm saying is, Poch knows how to work under those constraints. Nagelsmann, who's got a big ego because he's come from doing, like he said, he has done a great job at Leipzig, then went to Bayern Munich, which is essentially the Man City of the Bundesliga. Like, how's he going to be told, mate, you're not getting no players? Oh, well, I ain't going to work under those circumstances. You know, everyone talks about how Eric Ten Hag's done a great job at Man United. They'd already spent £750 million and he added another £300 million on top of the squad. Like, Man United ain't dealing in small fry wages and stuff and small fry players. They go and buy Casemiro and they can still attract it. We've got to really seriously think, you know what, Lascelles is a World Cup winner. Should we have a look at him? If it's a different system.
These are conversations that you have that really you shouldn't be having, because for me, they've had a little bit of a run. You look at Ndembele, it's not just on the football pitch. It's off the football pitch. There's a few issues with him. Do you know what I mean? His head, is he up for it? Is he up for the task? It's these types of conversations you shouldn't be having. But with what's on offer at the moment, you start having them again.
Yeah, can't be choosers.
You start having them again.
But that's why you can hopefully go right. Get them all back in. Because that, like, you see Kane's message to Ndombele on Instagram, the big boss and all that, yeah?
Yeah, I saw that.
So there's obviously some kind of synergy between them all. Do you create a team spirit of kind of like, okay, we're the outsiders again now. Does that suit us better maybe to be like, get on with our business, don't watch us. Pull in someone like a Tillsman or someone because they're on a free, you know what I mean? And try and do business like that.
The players on the other end have got to buy into that though.
Yeah, but that comes from the right manager. So if the manager comes in and says, hey, this is what we can do, this is how we're going to play football, then they might get a tune out of them. You got to remember, playing under a Jose Mourinho or a Conte is not going to do anything for your confidence building. There's no players have developed under those two managers. Look at the development. The only player who has is the elite player. That's Harry Kane.
Well, I tell you what, player improvement and coaching at Tottenham's got to be better. Because I'm having a look at the job that Eddie Howe's done at Newcastle.
Yep.
And that is proof that you can coach and you can get better at players.
But listen to all the Newcastle players talk about him and talk about his player, man management. They talk about how easy he is to go to. I don't know if you've seen it. Danny Rose done a little 15-minute interview recently, and he talked about Poch, and he said he's the best manager I've ever played with. I've never had a relationship with a manager like him. When his uncle would commit suicide, he was at the training ground by the lights near Pride Ball. First person, he goes, I don't know why, the first person I called was Poch. And because the boys had a day off that day, he wasn't supposed to be he was coming back from injury, so that's why he was there. And Poch said, where are you? He goes, I'm at the training centre, give me 10 minutes, I'll be there. And he goes, I've never had a relationship like. So when you have that relationship with a player, you're going to put your body on the line for them, because this guy's come and seen, we know what it's like. We always talk about fighting for your teammates. So having a manager come in who can create that mentality, the thing with Conte that is, if he loves you, he loves you. But if you're not in, you're an outsider. And Jose was the same. So we've created a real nasty environment in terms of certain players being on the outside, and someone like Ndombele clearly needs to be loved. He needs a man. I reckon, imagine if Ndombele played under a Harry Redknapp. I reckon Harry would get a tune out of him.
He needs to be fit. I mean, the guy gasses out after 10 minutes every time he plays.
Even if you saw him come on for Napoli.
I'm looking to improve. That's a conversation that you end up having. But really, if you break it down, he ain't the answer for something.
Yeah, but our problem is this, guys. Our problem is this, guys. So James Maddison, we'd all love Madders, right? he's going to go Newcastle.
Yeah.
Because one, they're going to pay stupid wages, and second of all, he walks into a club, Champions League football.
Yeah.
And let's have it right, Newcastle are a huge club.
Going in the right direction.
With the massive support.
We've got a player up front in Richarlison who has got 1 league goal this year. He needs to have a season.
Why don't
we've spent a fortune?
Yeah, but the biggest thing is our problem ain't that position. So I'm not that worried about whether or not Richarlison does or not.
You have to be worried about him.
Yeah, but
you have to be worried about that season.
Richarlison in the number 9.
This is what I'm saying. So the point I'm trying to make is that we've made recruitment. We've made signings. Of players that haven't done enough. They need to kick us on next year. Like Richarlison needs to pull up next year. Like he needs to turn up.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's
the atmosphere at this club that what needs to change dramatically, and that is going right from the top all the way to the bottom. This club is complete poison, and that needs to change.
Hey, we had a Beyonce concert last night. Yeah, okay, it's brilliant.
She looked the part as well.
And Daniel Levy's in the Times Rich list, so we're doing something.
Yeah, we are
happy, and we're getting an F1 go-karting track.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny as well? I swear on the website it says Tottenham games as the last thing.
Yeah, I know.
On what that stadium's for.
Final thought of
it's like
we do
concerts.
This, we do that. Oh, and by the way, we also have Tottenham Hotspur games here.
Yeah.
You happy about no Conference League football?
Well, that's the thing. I was going to move on to that next. I mean, I am happy about it because when you look at it, the last time we weren't in Europe was the season Harry got Champions League, 2009, 2010, I think it was. And we had a great season that year. And I think we actually got Champions League because we didn't have European football to contend with that year. And you look at Arsenal this year, they had a great season because of no European football, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise. To say, like, I'm happy not to be in Europe, I'm not happy not to be in Europe, but I think it can be a blessing in disguise.
Have you seen that meme of, what's his name, the mate that did Man's Not Hot? When he does the ad-libs, he goes like, Scrutnor, Asni. And he says, like, Liverpool's games in the Europe. Yeah. That's who you play in the conference. Scrutnor, Asni, Checkwood. Like, I don't want to be in the conference. I'm like, do you know what? This way...
It's a fall from grace, isn't it? You think of it like you're playing in a Champions League final a couple of seasons ago.
I get that, but
now you're not even in European football.
You've got to look at where we are right now.
Definitely.
You've got to know who we are right now, and that's who we are.
You turn up on a Thursday night playing any of these teams from around Europe, and you're only going to sit there and go...
Scrutner.
He's rubbish, isn't he? Ain't we playing crap? Oh, he ain't playing, having a good game, is he? And all you're going to sit there, it's going to be negativity for you on a Thursday night. It's always going to be. Nothing positive is going to be about it because you can look at it and go, yeah, but it's minutes for your squad players or whatever. No, it's not enough, mate.
It's only for the youth.
Potentially, you could, if you're going to use.
If you use them, we never do though.
Well, last time we were in the conference, didn't the Craig brothers get a go, and all the youth players were coming on in the group stages?
Yeah, a little bit. We never saw nothing of it.
We weren't no good in it. We ended up having. It was a result. We got thrown out of it. That's the competition you're in. You don't want to be in that.
No.
Are you happy we're not in it?
Absolutely. I think like. That one does really split opinion because you'll get fans that say, yeah, I want to watch Tottenham as much as possible. So if you put your selfish hat on, it's a game to watch on a Thursday night. You want to watch your team.
But one nice thing is Saturday football.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, like rather than Sunday.
Yeah.
Big squad to have to just worry about one game a week. And it's an inflated squad that needs to be trimmed down
massively.
And how do you do it? Because for me, you're going to have to start running a few more of them Matt Doherty situations where
see you later.
Contract terminated.
Rip it up.
And it's going to cost Tottenham. It's going to cost Tottenham a lot of money, but it's something that has to be done now because there's too many players. Their contracts are not just ending in 2024; it's 2025. Some of them. Tanganga's sitting on a deal till 2025.
So
you're sitting there, going to be sitting around for 2 seasons there.
Do you not think we've done players like him, Oliver Skip, maybe a few other players coming out of the academy a disservice in their development? Because you look at the Carl Walkers of this world, Danny Roses of this world, we gave them loan spells inside the Premier League. They got week in, week out minutes in the Premier League. I know Ollie Skip went to Norwich, but that was in the Championship. Tanganga never got a loan at all.
No. Oh yeah, Rose went to Sunderland, didn't he? And that's when he became good.
Yeah.
And he came back and was really good. The problem is, that's what happens when you bring in the Conte and the Mourinho. They don't care about the club. They're not there for the long haul. They're there to win a trophy for their, Jose sees himself as an entity, and the clubs that he's been at, he's almost like a player there. He's like, I've won this, and I've got an affinity with all the clubs that I was at, bar Tottenham. Yeah. That's what it's like. So I just think if you're going to... Daniel Levy was very short-sighted in his appointments, and he wanted... We've got the box office stadium, and he wanted box office managers, and he got Conte and Jose, and he looked at He's probably there, mate. He's probably looked at Abramovich and I wish I was him. I wish I had that Mourinho. And when he got the Conte, he'd be loving it. I told you, it was like when we got rid of Poch and Jose came in and it went wrong. As I said, it's the schoolboy fantasy. This older girl who was older than him, he fancied all of his life, and then he finally got a bit of dough. He's got rid of his wife, got with her, and she's miserable, horrible. Wants rid of her. It's all gone wrong. It's the fantasy that's gone wrong, and that's what it is. So now we need to get a manager that is going to be happy to work in those constraints and not think they're too big. That's why you can't have a Luis Enrique. If he's too big for us, he's managed Barcelona.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up taking the Napoli job, apparently. That's what I'm hearing.
But that's the other thing as well. There's other big jobs available that people are going to want.
Yeah, but the Tanganga ones is another prime example of a player who plays well against Liverpool at home. Do you remember the performance?
It was his debut, wasn't it?
Done well, and we all get carried away. We all get carried away very quickly. Oh, what a game. He's come through the academy. This is going to be a star. New Ledley King, whatever it might be. We reward it with a new deal, whatever it might be. But it might just be that he weren't good enough.
I think so.
I'm happy to accept that, by the way, because that is a simple case of what it is.
He's had enough time since then.
He's had enough time. He's had enough games. He's just not good enough to be at this level. Like, I'm not being funny. Tottenham have been punching around at a very high level over the last few years, whether it be top 4, top 6, Champions League, Europa League. It's a high level of football. You've got to be at it. And I just think he's miles off, to be honest.
Again, I don't think we aided his development. He needed a loan. After those 2 performances against Liverpool, I thought there was one more in there. Send him out on loan. Send him out to a Premier League team that will play him week in, week out. You know what I mean? Because him sitting on the bench ain't doing nothing.
No.
Sanchez? Even at the weekend, the clearances. A couple of clearances there behind the goal. They're going everywhere apart from where they're
meant. He's one that needs to be ripped up.
His clearances are going everywhere where they're not meant to be. Yeah. Just the basic clearances.
It's niggard. It's niggard.